Chapter 8, Renewable and Alternative Energy Sources, Video 2. Solar energy. Much of the energy we use at present is indirect solar energy. While people currently harness about 13 terawatts of the energy the sun delivers, about 80,000 terawatts to the Earth. Direct solar energy is dilute, diffuse, and intermittent. The large amount of solar energy available could potentially solve many of our current energy problems if we could somehow harness it. Modern solar technology encompasses two themes: trapping solar heat and light for useful purposes, and direct or indirect conversion to electricity. Sunlight can either be direct or diffuse. Some technologies require direct solar energy, while others use either. Passive solar design employs solar orientation of whatever is capturing the energy, and then thermal mass to moderate energy release after the energy has been transferred. Also requires effective insulation. Active solar systems include a flat plate collector, transfer fluid, some kind of water or alcohol, and radiators or a storage reservoir for the heat. The major use of active solar collectors is producing hot water. Active solar techniques, such as the one depicted, the collector has been used for space heating in buildings, whereas passive design is not practical or was not in use. Passive design usually involves architecture of the building to orientate the building toward the sun in the south, where sun rays can directly heat up the building itself. In these passive systems, a secondary system is warmed or cooled by absorbing light in a panel with tubes in it and then transferring that heat to a storage tank or to radiators in the building. Environments with large amounts of direct solar radiation can also use focusing collectors to distribute it in large arrays or as power towers. This set of arrays directs sunlight onto a power tower in the center that then uses that thermal energy to drive steam locomotion and energy generation. The high temperatures produced by these collectors can be used to process heat or generate electricity. Photovoltaics use semiconductor technology to generate electricity for direct use or to charge hydrogen fuel cells. Photovoltaics is the direct conversion of light to electricity at the atomic level. Some materials exhibit a property known as the photoelectric effect that causes them to absorb photons of light and then release electrons. When these free electrons are captured, an electric current results that can be used as electricity. For solar cells, a thin semiconductor wafer is specifically treated to form an electric field, positive on one side and negative on the other. When light energy strikes the solar cell, electrons are knocked loose from the atoms in the semiconductor metal. Semiconductor material. If electrical conductors are attached to the positive and negative sides, forming an electrical circuit, the electrons can be captured in the form of electrical current, as shown here. Sunlight is a fairly perfect, abundant, renewable energy resource. The main obstacle to using solar energy is that it's dispersed in nature and intermittent, i.e., on cloudy days, or on winter days, it's hard to capture enough sunlight to keep systems rolling, and of course it doesn't work at night. Large tracts of solar power plants can be disruptive to ecosystems like desert birds, so that's also a concern. Another alternative source is wind power. In 1980, the world's first wind farm, consisting of 20 30 kilowatt wind turbines, was installed at Crotchet Mountain in New Hampshire. At present, wind power generates less than 1.5 to 2% of the world's electricity, but its use is growing rapidly. As of the end of 2013, the capacity was 61,108 megawatts. This capacity is exceeded only by China and the European Union. Currently, Texas generates the most electricity with 12,355 megawatts, with California a far second with 6,000 megawatts. Some states like Iowa and South Dakota generate a large percentage of their local energy with wind, up to 30%. The cost of wind-derived electricity has dropped dramatically in the last decade. Wind farms also now generate electricity at competitive prices. This is because the government has subsidized the construction of these plants with tax breaks. These tax breaks are renewable almost on an annual basis and are a large issue in political elections. According to the U.S. Department of Energy's report called 20% Wind Energy, by 2030, wind power could supply 20% of all U.S. electricity, which includes a contribution of 4% from offshore wind power. Wind power is very safe and generally environmentally benign. Concerns about wind power include the intermittence of solar energy source, noise pollution, aesthetics, and potential lethality for birds. Another renewable source is geothermal energy. The energy from the Earth's hot interior can be used to heat buildings directly or to generate electricity. In the town I live in, Brunswick, the new school system uses geothermal energy, and the only cost that the school incurs is the electricity to run the pumps to cycle heat and cooling down into the ground. There are four basic types of geothermal deposits: hydrothermal reservoirs, which include shallow activity in Earth's crust that heats groundwater. This is where most of the active technology resides. Geopressure brines, which are 3,000 to 6,000 meters deep. Magma from volcanoes, which is usually not utilized. And hot, dry rock material. It gets hotter the deeper you drill anywhere you're drilling. Some places have activity closer to the surface than others. In a typical setting for home heating through geothermal, water or refrigerant moves through a loop of pipes. When the weather is cold, the water or refrigerant heats up as it travels through the part of the loop that's buried underground. Once it gets back above ground, the warm water or refrigerant transfers heat into the building. The water or refrigerant cools down after the heat is transferred, and it's pumped back underground where it heats up once more, starting the process again. On a hot day, the system can run in reverse. The water or refrigerant cools the building and then is pumped underground to where the extra heat is transferred to the ground around the pipes. These systems are expensive, but conserve a lot of energy once they're installed. Ocean energy is also being developed as an alternative. Commercial ocean energy developments have been based on both the movement of water and on its temperature. Both the wave action and tidal flows have been used to generate electricity. Ocean thermal conversion generate electricity, as I mentioned before when we talked about hydropower in the previous video. Ocean thermal energy conversion uses the temperature difference between deep ocean water and solar heated surface water to run a turbine and generate electricity. OTEC works best when the temperature difference between the warmer or top layer of ocean and the cooler or deep layer of water is about 36 degrees Fahrenheit. These conditions exist in tropical coastal areas, roughly between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. To bring the cold water to the surface, the ocean thermal energy conversion plants require an expensive, large diameter intake pipe, which is submerged a mile or more into the ocean's depths. This system works using heat from surface waters to boil ammonia to create steam and drive turbines. The ammonia is then cooled down by the cool water from the bottom of the ocean and then heated again to make the turbines turn. Reviewing this video for Chapter 8, we should know how passive and active solar power work. How do voltaics work? What's the potential energy from solar power? Why have we not come close to realizing it? What is the potential percentage of electricity generated from wind in the US by 2030? Why are some people opposed to that? And what is geothermal energy? How does it work? In particular, also, what is the ocean thermal energy idea? How does that work?